Hey there, folks, and welcome out to the Single Player Podcast. I'm your one and only host, I am 16-bit, and I got a good show for this week because we're going to be talking about the D.I.C.E Award nominations, Activision gets fined by the SEC, and the Switch becomes the third best-selling console of all time, plus more. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and I'll be with you in a bit. Alright, folks, we're back, and now it's time to start the show with my favorite segment, your favorite segment, everyone in the world's favorite segment. It's time for the Gaming Forecast. So let's see what's coming up between the week of February 12th to the 18th. Alright, on the 14th, you have just 6 games coming out. Blanc for Windows and Nintendo Switch. Journey to the Savage Planet for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Labyrinth of Galleria: The Moon Society, making its Western debut on Windows, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and PlayStation 5. Souls of Chronos for Windows, Nintendo Switch, and PlayStation 5. Spy Bros: Pippi and BB's DX for Windows and Nintendo Switch. And Wanted Dead for Windows, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. Then on the 15th, you have just one game coming out, Returnal for Windows. And then on the 16th, you have just 2 games coming out. Dust and Neon for Windows and Nintendo Switch, and Theater Rhythm Final Bar Line for Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4. And then on the 17th, you have just 4 games coming out. Rooftop Renegades for Windows, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. The Settlers New Allies for Windows. Tales of Symphonia Remastered for Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One, and Wild Hearts for Windows, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X. And that was your gaming forecast. Some interesting stuff there. Theater Rhythm is always a good one to see. Tales of Symphonia, also great to see getting that a remaster. But anyway, let me know what you're interested in down below. And remember, if you like any of the music in this week's episode, links are in the description. And with that being said, let's move on to our first topic. Okay, so for our first story, we've got to talk about the D.I.C.E Awards. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's that time of the year when the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences hold their annual award show, which, by the way, is the actual Academy Awards of video games, not the Game Awards. I don't know where people get that idea from. But, of course, it is happening on February 23rd and will be live streamed by IGN. I think also YouTube as well. But anyway, we have our nominations for this year's awards. So, first up, you have Outstanding Achievement in Animation. Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, and Moss Book 2. Then on Outstanding Achievement in Art Direction, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and The Callisto Protocol. Outstanding Achievement in Character, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Alejandro Vargas, God of War Ragnarok, Atreus, God of War Ragnarok, Kratos, Horizon Forbidden West, Aloy, and Return to Monkey Island, Guybrush Threepwood. Then, Astounding Achievement in Original Music Composition, A Plague Tale Requiem, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Metal Hellsinger, and Moss Book 2. Outstanding Achievement in Audio Design, A Plague Tale Requiem, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, God of War Ragnarok, Gotham Knights, and Somerville. Outstanding Achievement in Story, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, I Was a Teenage Exocolonist, Immortality, and Norco. Outstanding in Technical Achievement, A Plague Tale Requiem, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Teardown. Action Game of the Year, Bayonetta 3, Grounded, Neon White, Sifu, Vampire Survivors. Adventure Game of the Year, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Norco, Stray, and Tunic. Family Game of the Year, Disney Dreamlight Valley, Kirby's Dream Buffet, Lost in Play, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, and Trombone Champ. Fighting Game of the Year, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, All-Star Battle R, Multiverse, Rumbleverse, Spider-Heck, The King of Fighters 15. Racing Game of the Year, F1 22, Gran Turismo 7, Need for Speed Unbound. Role-Playing Game of the Year, Citizen Sleeper, Elden Ring, Weird West, World of Warcraft Dragonflight, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Sports Game of the Year, EA Sports FIFA 23, Mario Strikers Battle League, MLB The Show 2022, NBA 2K23, Ollie World, Strategy Simulation Game of the Year, Dwarf Fortress, Ixion, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, Marvel's Midnight Suns, Potion Craft, Alchemist Simulator, Warhammer 40k, Chaos Gate Demon Hunters, Immersive Reality Technical Achievement, Among Us VR, Cosmonius High, Moss Book 2, Red Matter 2, The Last Clockwinder, Immersive Reality Game of the Year, Cosmonius High, Moss Book 2, Red Matter 2, Tentacular, The Last Clockwinder. Outstanding Achievement for an Independent Game, Immortality, Neon White, TMNT, Shredder's Revenge. Mobile Game of the Year, Diablo Immortal, Gibbon, Beyond the Trees, Immortality, Marvel Snap, Point Pie? Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that. Online Game of the Year, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, EA Sports FIFA 23, Final Fantasy 14 Endwalker, Marvel Snap, Rumbleverse. Outstanding Achievement in Game Design, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Marvel Snap, Tunic, Vampire Survivors. Outstanding Achievement in Game Direction, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Immortality, Tunic. And finally, Game of the Year, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Vampire Survivors. So, congratulations to everyone who's nominated. I wish you all the best. The one that absolutely kind of surprised me for Game of the Year is Vampire Survivors. Don't get me wrong, it's a great game, I love it, but I didn't actually expect it to be nominated for Game of the Year. It seems to be the real sleeper hit of 2022. It's also been confirmed that at the ceremony, Tim Schafer will be inducted into the Hall of Fame, which includes other industry legends like Shigeru Miyamoto, Sid Meier, Hironobu Sakaguchi, and John Carmack. So congratulations to Tim Schafer, and let's move on to our next topic. Alright, for our next story, we've got to talk about Sony. So recently, they released their quarter 3 of 2022 financial results, which of course ended on December 31st. And according to them, the PlayStation 5 within 3 months sold a total of 7.1 million consoles, which brings the official lifetime sales number to 32 million units. Now, this is actually a good sign because it basically sort of corroborates what I think it was Jim Ryan said about PlayStation, where they're trying to get as many units out as possible. And it does sort of line up with past PlayStation systems. Like, for example, if you compare it to the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 2, both those systems took 2 years to reach that number. So the PlayStation 5, the fact that it was able to hit that number as well within 2 years, not gonna lie, that's actually pretty damn impressive considering all of the shipping and production issues Sony's been going through since launch. Now, of course, it's not just console sales from this. We also got some software sales as well, as they sold over 86.5 million in game sales. Of course, 20.8 million of that were actually first-party titles, and 11 million of that was God of War Ragnarok. So even though I hate modern God of War, I still, once again, I have to say, pretty damn impressive. Now, on top of all of this, Sony also reported that their game and network services have made over 433.3 billion yen, which is a 53% increase year over year. Again, pretty damn impressive. I'm not gonna lie, you know, I actually kind of thought that the PlayStation brand was dying a bit, especially when you compare it to their other divisions, which don't seem to be doing that well. So, yeah, color me completely wrong in that regard. But anyway, with that being said, I'm going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this.
夏奴らがプレイステーション2に大集合。
プレイステーション
All right, folks, we're back in. First up on our next round of stories, we've got to talk about Activision Blizzard. No, not the Microsoft purchase. Instead, this is about the allegations against them because the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, best known as the SEC, has announced that Activision Blizzard has agreed to pay a $35 million settlement over their complaints of workplace misconduct. That's right. The SEC said, and I quote, "The SEC's order finds that Activision Blizzard failed to implement necessary controls to collect and review employee complaints about workplace misconduct, which left it without the means to determine whether larger issues existed that needed to be disclosed to investors," said Jason Burt, director of the SEC's Denver regional office. Moreover, taking action to impede former employees from communicating directly with the Commission's staff about a possible securities law violation is not only bad corporate governance, it is illegal. That's right. Apparently, the SEC found that they did, in fact, violate a whistleblower protection rule. So, yeah. In doing so, they have to pay $35 million. In a statement to VGC, Activision said, "We are pleased to have amicably resolved this matter. As the order recognizes, we have enhanced our disclosure process with regard to workplace reporting and updated our separation contract language. We did so as part of our continuing commitment to operational excellence and transparency. Activision Blizzard is confident in its workplace disclosures." And you know what? It better damn well. Because what happened in that corporation is downright disgusting and should never happen in any company whatsoever. So, yeah, you know what? I'm glad to see that they agreed to pay the $35 million. I mean, it's chump change compared to what they're making off of Call of Duty, but you know what I mean. However, keep in mind that this is not the end of any lawsuits. There's still a whole bunch coming down the pipeline. So, yeah, they're gonna have to. Activision Blizzard most likely is gonna have to pay out way more in the future. So anyway, with that being said, let's move on to our next topic. All right, next up, we've got an update on Back 4 Blood, because it appears Turtle Rock Studios has confirmed that they are no longer working on any more content for the game. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. They put out a short update on their site saying, and I quote, "Turtle Rock Studios is actually pretty small for a studio making AAA games. We don't have quite enough folks to continue working on Back 4 Blood content while we spin up another game." Yes, another game. Given this, it's time for us to put our heads down, get back in the lab, and get to work on the next big thing. And you know what? I'm not really that surprised. Back 4 Blood, from what I've seen, it was just a poor man's Left 4 Dead. And yes, I know Turtle Rock Studios did work on those games, but it just didn't seem like it had the same polish, the same sort of feeling that Left 4 Dead had. And you could definitely see that in the player counts. For example, Left 4 Dead, currently right now on Steam charts, has a player, basically 19,000 people, just under 20,000 people are playing the Left 4 Dead 2. Its 24-hour peak has been 33,000, and its all-time peak was 161,000. Compare that to Back 4 Blood, which currently right now only has about 1,000 people playing, has only 3,000 in a 24-hour peak, and 65,000 at an all-time peak. Yeah, it's you can definitely tell, like, there's just not enough people playing this, and consider the fact that Left 4 Dead 2 is over 10 years old. It's like, what at this point, 13, 12? Yeah, it's pretty damn old, and yet you still have thousands of people playing it, and tens of thousands, but you don't really have that with Back 4 Blood, and it's like, gee, I wonder why. And obviously, the fact that it's still being supported, you still have people modding Left 4 Dead 2, and you don't even have that for Back 4 Blood. Again, it's very, very telling. But I wish Turtle Rock all the best. Hope they put out something that actually is as good for Left 4 Dead, but I highly doubt it, not without Valve behind them on it. But anyway, with that being said, let's move on to our next story. Okay, this next one I thought was really interesting. So if you're a fan of the Final Fantasy piano albums, which are great, I only have one, which is the Final Fantasy IX. And if you know me, you know exactly why. Well, I've got some very good news for you, because it appears that the Crystalline Resonance Final Fantasy Piano Concert is finally touring around North and South America. That's right. Apparently, it's going to start on March 3rd and continue all the way into the end of the month. And they're going to be going from San Francisco, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, New York, Boston, Montreal, Toronto, and then finally ending in Sao Paulo. So, by the way, apologies if I mispronounced that. But yeah, if you're interested, you can definitely go check it out. They are coming to New York, and I am in that sort of area. I'm interested, but unfortunately, I looked at the the tickets, and unfortunately, most of them are gone. So I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. I wish I could, but I'm not going to be able to. It's a shame. I would have loved to have seen that, but oh well. I've been to video game concerts before, mostly two. Both of them were Video Games Live. One was in New York City, the other one was in Red Bank, New Jersey. So, yeah, I'll leave a link in the description, and if you're interested, I definitely go check it out. It seems like it'd be a really fun concert. But anyway, guys, I'm going to take a short break. We'll be right back after this.
Call these freaks whatever you want.
If it's not one of us, kill it.
The guys used to laugh when I hit the rifle range at lunch. Ain't so funny now, is it?
I'll see peace back on Earth if I gotta murder every one of these animals with my own bare hands. Rated M for mature.
All right, folks, we're back in. First up in our next round of stories, we've got to talk about Nintendo, because just like Sony, they too have released their third quarter earnings report, and it has some very interesting information. First and foremost, the Switch has officially sold over 994 million units of software. To quote Unreal Tournament, holy shit. That is just an ungodly amount. But considering how many units it's of hardware it's actually sold, it's not hard to believe. Speaking of which, it appears that the Switch has also officially sold, in terms of hardware, 122.55 million units. Now, when it comes to the list of the best-selling game consoles of all times, that officially places the Switch at number 3. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The Switch has officially outsold the PlayStation 4 and the entire Game Boy line. What? I honestly never expected that to happen, you know. Now, it still has quite a ways to go until it outsells the DS and the PlayStation 2, which are both over 150 million. And considering the fact that the Switch, the hardware is really starting to age quickly, and you have the fact that they're competing against the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, which both seem to have be able to catch up pretty quickly. I don't think it's going to reach that. If it does, I will be surprised. Because according to this report, Switch sales are actually in decline. Apparently, in the first 3 quarters of 2022, they only sold 14.9 million units compared to 2021, which sold 18.95 million, which is a 21.3% decline. So yeah, the Switch is in a sales decline, but honestly, that was expected considering the fact that we are going into the 6th year of the Switch. So, you know, the system is in its twilight years. It's really starting to show its age. I mean, it's started showing its age about, I don't know, 2 years ago. And then there's the increasing competition from Sony and Microsoft, who seem to have been able to kind of fix their shipping and production issues. So yeah, I think Nintendo should really start putting the pedal to the metal when it comes to a replacement system for the Switch. Because while, yeah, the system has been crazy successful, that success has really started to decline, and I think Nintendo should really start ramping up production and at least start planning to launch a successor either by the end of this year or next year, because no later than 2 years from now. If the Switch is still the flagship system in 2 years from now, then honestly, Nintendo basically fucked their chances of continuing the momentum they've created with the Switch. I hate to be a downer, especially with such good news from Nintendo, but at the same time, they really got to get their ass in gear about this. So anyway, with that being said, let's move on to our next story. Okay, and before I go on to the next story, I just want to say that basically all 3 stories in the last segment are just all Nintendo stuff. So just a heads up, just in case you're wondering, wait a minute, it's all Nintendo stories. Yeah, I honestly, it just turned out that way. But anyway, moving on. So Detective Pikachu. Great movie. Absolutely loved it. Saw it in the theater when it came out. And recently, Polygon did a article about the supposed sequel. Because, you see, back in early 2019, before the movie actually came out, Legendary Entertainment actually announced that they were making a sequel. Well, as you can probably guess, that never materialized. And so recently, Polygon decided to reach out and ask Legendary Entertainment about what's the deal. Well, according to them, the project is still in active development, and they could not confirm who was currently working on it. So, yeah, it's very weird statement, because they, again, they announced this thing back in 2019, and we still haven't heard anything about it. And apparently, the writers of the movie, Benji Samit and Dan Hernandez, were asked about it, and they said that they were not involved, but would love to be. And actually said it's an ongoing conversation that is still not over to this day. adding that the situation was complicated and involved a lot of big studio corporate Pokemon rights things that we're not privy to, which would make sense because remember, all of this has to go through the Pokemon Company, not Nintendo. Nintendo is only a part of the Pokemon Company. Polygon also reached out to Oren Uziel, who is the writer of 22 Jump Street, and he had written the draft for the first Sonic movie. And apparently, he had actually wrote an outline and a screenplay for a sequel, but has never heard anything back from it. He says he's no longer working on the film, and it's unclear who has taken over the project. Which is a damn shame, because honestly, I was really hoping it would open up the series to more movies. I mean, after all, it is the second highest grossing video game movie of all time. So it would stand to reason that, you know, Warner Brothers would make a sequel, but unfortunately that hasn't happened yet, you know? And the thing is, it doesn't even have to be a sequel to Detective Pikachu. It could just be any Pokemon movie whatsoever. Like, you could literally just adapt Pokemon Red and Blue. Like, actually kind of like take the main story and like outline an entire plot around it. And there is somewhat of a plot. It's very loose, but it is there. You know, I could see something like that. You know, one kid goes out on an adventure for the first time throughout the Kanto region and such, and he goes up against Team Rocket. Like, that would actually be really cool. But unfortunately, it seems like that's not going to happen. Of course, the real question is, how long is it going to spend in development hell? Anyway, guys, let's move on to our next story. Alright, and for our last story, we've got to talk about the upcoming Nintendo Direct. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Nintendo has announced that a Direct, of course, will be premiering later on this afternoon. For me, it'll be 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Of course, we don't know what's going to be announced as of this recording, so but we do know that it is going to be roughly 40 minutes of updates on games coming out later this year. Now, whenever Nintendo decides to announce a Direct, you always have a bunch of people doing predictions and all this kind of shit. And here's the thing, okay? One thing I always tell people is this: never go into a Nintendo Direct, or really any Direct whatsoever, whether it's Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, you name it. Never go into any of those with any expectations, because there is a chance that what you want to be announced will in fact not be announced. I've seen it happen for many years, okay? I remember back in 2015 where, like, literally before Sony's press conference, no one had any expectations for that E3, and then afterwards, after they announced the Final Fantasy VII Remake and Shenmue 3, suddenly everyone's expectations for Nintendo the following day just shot up to, like, unrealistically high levels. Like, people basically expected Nintendo to announce every fucking game they wanted. And when that didn't happen, people were pissed. So, that's why whenever this shit happens, I'm always like, never go into it with high expectations. Now, from what they're saying here, we can discern that, of course, they're going to discuss games such as Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Pikmin 4, Octopath Traveler 2. That's what I'm expecting them to discuss. What I'm hoping is we finally get a release date for friggin' Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. Now, look, I understand why Nintendo decided to postpone the original release, because it was like, what, 2 months after the Russian invasion of the Ukraine? I get that, you know, it's not exactly a good time, but clearly this war is not going to end anytime soon, so I think postponing it until the war is over is kind of a dumb thing to do, because we don't know when this shit's gonna end. I mean, hell, most people, back in 1914, most people thought World War I was gonna end by Christmas time, and that sure as shit didn't happen. So, Nintendo, for the love of God, just please release the game already. We might also get some more information on the Wave 4 DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so you never know with Nintendo. They always like to surprise people when they least expect it. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to Nintendo's Direct. I might live tweet it around 5 p.m. because I'm going to be out of work by that point. So until then, I'm going to take a short break and we'll be right back after this.
Brace yourself. It's Super Game Boy from Nintendo. Play your Game Boy games on the Super NES in living color. Even choose your own color combinations. Play all 350 Game Boy games. How does that strike you? Super Game Boy for the Super NES. Game Boy games in color, intense.
Alright folks, and that's it for this week. I want to thank you all for listening. Remember, if you like any of the music in this week's episode, links are in the description. There is also a playlist called Single Player Radio, and it is music from past episodes. And with that being said, I'll see you all next week, and remember to keep gaming.